Hello, everybody. My name is Noah. This is the Big Bad Anime Channel. I am your host. I am a concept artist, 2D animator, comic book artist, and storyboard artist. Today we are going to be doing some sketching and work out of the imagination. I'm not working with any reference. I am just showing up and I'm seeing what I can see. Seeing what the muse brings to me. I'll have a basic genre in mind. I think for this one I was kind of thinking near future, sci-fi, maybe a little bit dystopian. You know, there's some mechs that show up, I think I started sketching some spaceships, but I think they disappeared as I did further and further versions of this. You'll see it starts off really, really loosely, and I'm throwing down a bunch of lines. Not everything works, and I know that. But if I find something in the character that I think is a little bit interesting or something I want to explore, that is what I keep. Versus the stuff that just doesn't move me or just feels kind of flat or uninteresting, that's the stuff I get rid of. And I'll do about 3, 4, maybe even sometimes 5 versions of a sketch as I get progressively darker and I start moving the opacity up a little bit. So things start to, kind of like a lens on a camera, you start to go from blurry to a little bit crisper, and as you do version after version, you're essentially getting that aperture into focus to see the character. Sometimes quite often I'll use a kind of gray or mid-tone background, so I can also work within the light tones and reflectivity and shine and highlights. One thing to keep in mind, if you're struggling with the shadow side of things, if you're struggling with the lines, essentially, the darker parts, to get things to look right, something to consider is you can try the highlights. Sometimes when I come in and I'm frustrated with something or it's just not working for me, if I go to the highlights before I go to this darker second rendition, it'll pop something personality-wise or something about the character that I hadn't noticed before forward. And so if you're struggling with getting the darks to look right, try the highlights. And that might localize in where the problem is. Or, flipping it vertically, that always helps. You see, I try several iterations of some characters. This last little space astronaut guy I was drawing here. You saw I tried a version right before this that wasn't working out. The body just didn't quite look right. I couldn't find the character in there. So I tried again. There's nothing wrong with scrapping what you did and just taking another pass at it if it's not working out. One thing to consider, one thing that I like to do is make sure when I'm sketching that I've got a pleasing environment around me. Have some music you like playing, or maybe a movie you enjoy playing in the background. Something that gets you into that state, that flow state as they call it. And, I like to have a cup of coffee or some tea or something that tastes good, that keeps my energy up. Just having a pleasant environment goes a long way when you come to associate sketch time. And I like to set a specific sketch time for myself every day or every couple days, or, I've got a set schedule at least a few times a week, and I keep that as a discipline and also as kind of a treat for myself. It's a little bit of both. And I like to rotate what I approach on my sketch time, my drawing time. Sometimes it's studies. Sometimes it's work from my imagination. Other times it's what's in front of me, plein air, looking at my environment, people around me. I draw inspiration from a lot of different sources, and that keeps me from burnout. That keeps me always inspired is a kind of cliche word, but yeah, inspired or curious or searching or kind of joyful about the process. And if you've worked in the industry for some years, or you just create art all the time. Burnout is a real thing. It's a real thing that we fight against as artists, and something we have to kind of always be on the lookout for and being proactive to fight against that burnout. It's just really important because it'll creep up on you. I don't care how excited you are about the project you're working on. Eventually, burnout kind of creeps up. And once it's there, it's really hard to get rid of. So I would encourage you to build into your creative schedule, your process, things that rotate up your subject matter, rotate up how you work, what you're working on. And as you switch those things, your brain kind of resets a little bit, at least mine does. Another technique that I use as a way to keep burnout at bay, or kind of keep myself always looking forward and excited about the process, is I'll challenge myself. I'll give myself more to work on than I can chew for a particular either page, project, or whatever I'm working on at the time. And kind of swing for the fences, shoot for the stars, however you want to say it. Do the thing that you're really not good at, take some big risks, get it wrong, try again. These are the things I preach if you listen to any of my videos in the past. But taking that kind of even further and trying stuff that I'm really not good at. I know it's going to fail and I'm going to have to try a bunch of times to get it right. But if you get it right, it is exciting. Or if you find something, get it right, maybe the wrong way to put it. But if you find something in there you weren't expecting, if it turns out better than you expected, even while challenging yourself, that is one of the most exciting experiences as an artist. Oftentimes, it's like, well, if I could do that, and I didn't think I could do that, even though it's more than I've ever done in the past, what else is possible? What else could I do? What else? It makes you just start questioning your own ability in a very good way. Maybe you're better than you thought you were. Maybe a lot more is possible than anybody ever told you was possible. And when you start realizing that and kind of peeling back those layers, that gets really exciting. We've all been told over and over again who we are, what our place is, what our lane is. And I think most of us just kind of accept that, because most of the people who are telling us these things care about us. They want to see the best for us, right? And oftentimes we just accept that on faith. At least I know I have in the past. And so once you start really seeing what your ability is and what your potential could be, if you put in the work, if you start walking down that path, that creative path, you start to see who you are without anybody else's input. You start to see what you think when no one else is there. And it's a journey, It's a whole path of its own. And I can always tell when someone's a creative. When someone works and struggles and hustles in that creative life in one way or another, whether that be their own personal projects or if they're a professional, you can just see it because they live a little differently. They live a little freer. They're a little more able to express themselves comfortably. It's just obvious, and I find it to be the best way to live. I remember this saying my grandfather used to say when I was a little kid, and I used to say I'm bored when I was around him. I'd say I'm bored, there's nothing to do. He turned to me and looked at me with a very serious look on his face, and he said, "Only boring people get bored. Only uninteresting people aren't interested." And that kind of stuck with me. And I thought, I don't know if I was 3, 4, I was pretty young when he said that. But it always stuck with me because he was right. He was absolutely right. Only boring people get bored. I never get bored because I always have a project on the horizon that I didn't have time to work on. I always have an idea that it's kind of been jangling around in my head, that I've been kicking around trying to figure out. There's always 10 things that I'm excited to work on the horizon. And then that way it's like, if I got a moment's time, instead of checking social media or, I don't know, just kind of thinking about mundane stuff, I've got this beautiful option to start working on my next personal project, to get to work on whatever is in front of me. And there's 12, 20, 144 things in front of me. And that's just, through sketch days, ideation, through writing, through all the things that I do in my creative process. Those are all on the slate. Those are all on the desktop, just ready and waiting to go. So if I got a moment, I've got a sketch pad with me. If I'm going to be in a waiting room somewhere, or I've got 2 hours to kill and I'm not going to be at home, I know to bring my drawing supplies. Even if it's just my little travel sketch pad, it's there with me. And then that way I'm never bored. I'm always working on something and I'm always excited about it, or at least more often than not. I can't say always because we all have those days, but for the most part, that's how it goes. You might be saying that sounds good. That sounds all fine and well and good. But how do you start? And that's where the rubber meets the road. Well, you start at the beginning. You start by starting. That sounds a little nonsensical, but if you think about it, that's the truth of it. You just got to get going. All right, you guys. Thank you for joining me. My name is Noah. I've been your host for today. This is the Big Bad Anime Channel. Thank you for sticking around. We are just getting started here, but I'm already having a blast. I hope you're having a good day. This is just part 1 of our first sketch series, so don't forget to stick around. We got another one coming up, part 2 and part 3 of our very first sketch session, to be continued. Please take care of yourself, and I will see you on the next one. Peace.